Welcome to the Jacksonville Jaguars franchise. It is time for another offseason, with the Jaguars coming off a 9-8 season. Actually, our best performance 3 years into this series. It was an exciting season, but still, no playoff appearances. There's a lot of work to do with this team. And the story of the year, of course, I'm sure some of you are getting tired of it, was the Chuck Johnson story. A 6th-round quarterback becoming the starter because he looks so good in preseason running the revamped offense we had that we had to see if this would actually translate into the regular season. And it did. He's gone from a 71 to an 80, normal to star development, and he's a really exciting story. And I am looking to build this team around him right now. There are things he has to do better next season, limiting turnovers and sacks. It's just the way he plays the quarterback position. In this franchise, of course, we watch the games, which means the player ratings, player traits, the playbook all matter. I like what he does when he takes off and extends plays. He's a good scrambler. He throws the ball away when things aren't going well. And down the stretch, I thought he played some of his best games against some of the toughest opponents. And he is an 80 overall now, but he wasn't an 80 overall all of last season at all. You're not going to hear me talk about quarterback rating all that often, but if we check out where he had a 100 plus, there were 2 here in the early portion of the season, but more of his higher quarterback rating games. All 4 of these late in the year were after a lot of development, and all 4 were against playoff opponents. The AFC is tough, and we have a young team that has continued to develop and will do so next year. We have 3 young offensive linemen that I've drafted. Eli Arrington, the star receiver, Curtis Easley at tight end. I think if we're patient, a lot of this is going to naturally get better, but of course it's the offseason. We have to make some major moves. Last year, it turned out one of the biggest moves was drafting Martin Cooper. To make a difference in the AFC, we have to find players that have really high development and can change the way a side of the football is played. Cooper had 10 sacks as a rookie, helped us have a really dynamic pass rush, and that caliber of player is what we need to continue to find. We own 4 picks inside the top 80, including Philadelphia's 2nd round pick. Our first pick right now is slotted for 16 overall. And I've spent some time seeing what this draft class looks like and what we need to accomplish this year, and I'm really excited about this offseason. It is also an extremely important one looking at the long-term view of this team, because next year we have a ton of major contract decisions. Looking ahead, there's Josh Hines-Allen, Brian Thomas, Tyson Campbell, Travis Etienne, Ezra Cleveland. A lot of our starters become free agents next year, and how well we do today can determine how difficult those situations can be. This draft class, to me, sets up really well for us to get difference makers. Our top 3 cornerbacks are all free agents next year, and this is an absolutely stacked cornerback class with a number of round 1 players, even a player down here. Darius Williams, a day 3 projected player, has 1st round talent. And we have a draft story player as well with Vaughn Broughton from USC, a 6'4" cornerback who dominated the college all-star game. He has size, he has speed, he can play man and zone. We'll have to see if the combine helps separate this cluster of players, but we do have just a couple draft stories right now that are relevant to us. There is the Vaughn Broughton college all-star game story, and then there's a linebacker as well. Bryce Green was the college all-star game MVP. I don't know that I'm as interested in him. He's a run-stopping linebacker and doesn't really have great coverage, so maybe he could develop it over time. But as far as right now, he's a 23-year-old run stopper who isn't a terrific athlete or anything, so I don't believe I'll prioritize him. The tackle class looks awesome as well. 4 players that I think are starting caliber on day 1. I even like Cameron Towns a ton, even though his talent grade is lower than his projection. Towns is 21 years old, 6'7", 324, and is a well-rounded athlete. who can both pass protect, has some run blocking as well. Usually I'm only getting excited about the round 1 talent players in this case, but I think Towns could be really good at the same time. But there are more round 1 graded players here that fit. George Payton is one of them. He's 6'7", 339, another large tackle, extremely strong, solid athlete, especially at that size, and is as well-rounded as a lot of these tackles come. Something we have to figure out, though, is if we can find a future starter at running back in this class. You'll notice I have a bunch of guys favorited here. It's not just because I like running backs, but there's some intrigue in this class. I was looking, for instance, at the fastest players, sorting by the physical speed grade. And I came across one player at power back that separates in Joe Johnson. I'm not saying he's starting caliber, he's a day 3 projected player, but 21-year-old running back. He's a really good athlete with size, speed, and strength, and a break tackle, a trucking. You know, if he is available there in like the 4th round range, then that's the kind of player you take a chance on, I think. But we also have to consider some of the early projected running backs. Right now, I'd be looking at Kendrick Judge as an option, a power back from Notre Dame. Might not be the most explosive running back, but could add a power element. And for a lot of these guys, I do need to see the combine grades. And some of these speeds where it's like solid to good speed, I really want to break down those, fractions of a second to see who actually has the type of athleticism I'm looking for at the position. So I think this sets up for a really fun offseason today, and a very important one, of course. All right, offseason workouts are getting underway. We are talking defense, and we're going to do so with Travon Walker, who's coming off a 5-sack season. I'd like for him to be a more consistent pass rusher, especially as Josh Hines-Allen gets up there in age now. I think he's going to be 32 this coming year. Pass rush moves, that is exactly what I want him to focus on. All right, let's go talk to a few of our best friends in the series. Let's talk about the next few months. I'm going to say that we're going to make sure we win the draft. We have an extra 2nd round pick. The scouting information we have sets up really well for us to come away with difference makers. Draft a difference maker in the first 3 rounds, 80 plus overall. That's a ridiculous guarantee. Draft a sleeper in the 5th through 7th. I just think that's far more likely than me finding a generational player when not every class even has 80 plus rated talent. Well, finally, we might have actually made Eli Arrington happy in some way. I don't know why he's reacting to this, but he seems to make everything his business. And as we get underway, if you wouldn't mind leaving a like on the video, that would be extremely helpful. Would allow others to find this series and help out in the YouTube algorithm, and subscribe to the channel as well. Lad McConkey says he's not going to Los Angeles. I wonder if they would change that about him. And speaking of, we are hitting the practice field. Who wants to have a conversation? And it's Tyson Campbell. My agent's been telling me my number 1 motivation should be more meaningful. What is your top motivation? Being close to home, and I have no idea where he's from. Would you change that about me? I'm just going to say no. I think we're in good shape. I've already, signed him to 1 contract in this series. And a lot of guys are going to be trying to earn another deal this year. It's a huge list of free agents. When you have a couple years in a row of not making a lot of tough decisions, eventually, it all gets dumped on you eventually. How about this? Chuck Johnson. Rumor, players appreciate coaches' player-centric approach. That's right. We are developing a good, team-friendly culture in Jacksonville, Florida. And now who wants to stick around for the future of what we're building? 5th-year option decision on Eli Arrington. A guy who says he's not going to re-sign with us after a lot of bad conversations with him. But we can still control where he plays for a couple years. We have the 5th-year option, the franchise tag. We're going to pick it up because he is a game-changing caliber player. For J.D. Short, now, if I'm worried about re-signing him, I can just pick up his option. It would be premium, around $20 million, but he might be a tough player to eventually re-sign. Looking at Christian Gonzalez here, for instance, he's going to make 15 to 20 a year, so that 19 is a bit of a premium, but for a player who has like no interest right now in re-signing, probably good to pick that up, even if it's 25% too high. And making these two decisions here will, of course, impact next year's re-signings, because we just put $50 million basically on the books for year 5. Happy to re-sign Anton Harrison, backup tackle whose pass protection is solid, so I'm actually signing him to a 2-year contract. I'm going to sign Jarrian Jones as well, although I plan to add a rookie into our cornerback room this year. He's just been good when he's on the field, so I want to keep him around. Mason Smith, though, going to become a free agent, and just look at what these defensive tackles get paid. 76 overall, looking for $9 million a year. I think defensive tackle is one of those positions where you want to make sure you always have some young talent, because you're going to pay a lot to keep around even average players. You could have a second-round pick with a similar overall that's making, counting maybe $1 million or so towards the cap, whereas Mason Smith is 9. Jordan Jefferson, 74 overall, that's $7.4 million. Significant. I want to keep Cross around just because of the way he played in Week 18. His interest isn't all that high, and he's testing. Heath Tuck is also going to test, but I'm interested in him returning. I think we'll let Yasir Abdullah go. We have Devon Lewis, a young linebacker I drafted who should play more this year, and we'll just look to have somebody else that can develop. Foyesade Oluwakin is a free agent, actually, and not all that interested in returning. He has a really important role, obviously, on this defense, and we are going to move on, but we are trying to replace this production, and I think in the games we've watched, he's constantly stood out, especially with his pass coverage. 6 deflections, 2 picks last season, even after steep regression. We'll get Logan Cook signed, and then could we possibly need a new kicker? As Cam Little isn't all that interested in returning. He's been solid, but we might have to start over. I think this year we try to unleash Devon Lewis, though, and replace Foyesade Oluwakin. He does have field general archetype, his coverage is solid, and he's a normal development 23-year-old player. So this is kind of a make or break spot. Can he rack up milestones and do enough to take him up a notch? Because he's not going to be great in coverage without star development, most likely. But right now, 90 speed, 87 tackling, 76 hit power. He has the run and chase skills right now, will need some more coverage, and he really needs to break out this year if it's going to work out. Given he had only 77 injury, though, we're definitely going to want some competition there. We need some linebacker depth. And thankfully, we have plenty of cap space right now. And of course, a way to get even more. I wonder what teams will be willing to offer for Trevor Lawrence. He's still a starting caliber player, but on a really large contract. So I think there could be a home for him if there's a desperate team out there without a quarterback or a way of drafting a top rookie. The Cowboys make the most sense outside of the fact that they have Dak Prescott on a $72 million cap hit and $7 million in cap space right now. If they were to trade for Lawrence and cut Dak, that would probably make the most sense. They could save $55 million. Carolina also doesn't have a starting quarterback on this team. They might make the most sense. But the Panthers do select inside the top 5 according to Mock Draft 4. We'll come back to the Trevor Lawrence situation in a little bit. For now, we're getting some draft stories, including wide receiver Dion Goddard showing up overweight and struggling at the combine. Then we have cornerback Markel Elam, who struggled with a bad 40 time. They're really hammering a day 3 cornerback there. I thought most of the stories would be for players that were expected to go earlier. If we just look at 40 time here, Von Broughton, we know, has the positive story, great college all-star game, also ended up with the best 40 time at cornerback and one of the better verticals. I'd say he is an early favorite for our first round pick. The running backs I have favorited all had pretty good 40 times as well, including a 4.44 for running back Joe Johnson. Great strength, great speed, great acceleration, and a great projection. I'll have to get the talent grade perhaps on Johnson. I might spend all the private workouts on running back. Well, let's see who's available in free agency this year. $73 million in cap space. The top player available is Brandon Ayuk. Jack Campbell is also available. The Lions are losing everybody in their core. And I think we are actually in a perfect spot to now have more interest in Campbell. 28 years old, 18 teams interested. So it probably takes a 4-year deal to get this done. Very solid run defender, solid in coverage, but not great. And regression is going to hit and probably make that coverage not all that useful. Charvarius Ward, Xavier Worthy is available. Brandon Aubrey, Vita Vea becomes available. I'm always interested when he's there. At running back, it might not be a bad time to look at who's out there. And Trey Benson is an 84 overall. 26 years old. We have to figure out what's going to happen after Travis Etienne regresses further and he's a free agent next season. Benson does look like a very solid starter with really good speed and acceleration combo. So I think I'm going to start off at linebacker, and I'm actually not going to offer for Jack Campbell. Nobody else is offering right now to Zach Bond, who is older, but I think has similarities with the coverage skill. Very close comparison there. Not as good of a run defender, but I think it'd be easier to sign him to a 1-year deal. And I don't know if I want Campbell at 28 years old on a big deal when we have so many players who need contracts next season. I think I'd be more than happy solving this for 1 year with a player like Bond, who I think next year you could get a similar season from Campbell versus Bond. But maybe the long-term deal isn't right for us. And I'm kind of going with the same line of thought with Vita Vea. This is not a very good defensive tackle class right now, but usually there are a lot of good starting caliber players. And if we could get Vita Vea, that would help have a mentor for Jonathan Moore and give us kind of a 1-year solution to worry about it more so next year. And then I am pretty interested here in Trey Benson. I really want to try to offer a 2-year deal here, which I think does make this a little bit more tricky. One thing to remember is that each position begins regression at a different age, and at running back, it hits earlier than any other spot. That age is 27 years old. We just saw Travis Etienne fall to an 82 at age 29, so I'd rather not have Trey Benson on a 3-year contract. And the running back class to me is showing enough promise to where I'm willing to take the risk of offering a 2 over a 3. I'm also interested in 2 guards. We have Elton Jenkins, who's a pass protection first guard, and then Dominic Pooney, who is a better run blocker, but is by no means a bad pass protector. I'm going to try signing Pooney to a 2-year contract. Now, for offensive linemen, if everything is the same as it was in Madden 24, because that's where I took all of my notes and I have a lot of this stuff, I should probably do it every year. But offensive linemen don't regress until 31 years old, if that holds true. So, 2-year deal here would have him regression free. And I'm also throwing out a 1-year offer to Brandon Aubrey. And let's see if we can have a strong start to free agency. 5 players on the board. Decisions made by 3. We sign all 3. We get stronger in the trenches. Vita Vea, Dominic Pooney, linebacker Zach Bond helps replace Foysade Aluakin. Trey Benson made his choice. It is to come to the Jacksonville Jaguars. I offered him a 2-year deal, like $2 million more a year than other teams were offering, and he takes it. So this helps with the regression we've seen from Etienne. Do see, lower yards per carry these last couple years, and that's, with him developing pretty well. So I think there is a little risk here, but it was an opportunity that I wanted to take on. So Jack Campbell has signed on a big deal with the Buffalo Bills. Brandon Ayuk stays in division, going to the Cardinals, and the Commanders signed Charvarius Ward. Now, these moves have basically eaten up all of our cap space if we don't do something with Trevor Lawrence's contract now. I did put him on the trade block. Nobody has offered here in the offseason. We have Mock Draft 5 now available. So the two teams that made the most sense were Dallas and Carolina to take a quarterback. And right now we're seeing Carolina taking a pass rusher. The Patriots taking a quarterback? Why? I think Drake May has developed just fine. They'll have the Cowboys taking Craig Raymond here at 14. And they project us to take Von Broughton, which seems like a very high possibility. There are good tackles here that are going. Sergio Morgan I like a lot. There's a run projected to go on here. So I definitely want to be able to get, if I take a cornerback early, I'm still going to want a tackle. I know the move for Pooney was like, why go that route here? But for Cleveland, I think that we could have him play tackle for a year, which I don't remember if he played tackle at Boise State or not. I know he was considered like a guard or tackle coming out. But we could also look to trade Cleveland. He has 1 year left on his deal, whereas Pooney now, signed on for 2 years, is a better player. Very similar rating-wise. But it gives us some flexibility to have Cleveland play or trade him. Lawrence's $47 million cap hit is a tough one to absorb, and we're going to eat dead money if we make the move. But it can also limit who can actually pick it up. Like the Buccaneers, for instance, don't have the cap space, especially now that we're further into free agency. But I wasn't going to trade with them. They brought Baker Mayfield back, which is actually hilarious. But they originally had the quarterback of the future and future starter tag on David Corner, so I wasn't going to consider them. And yet they still go out and have a reunion with Mayfield. To me, Carolina is still a really good fit, and they were not projected to go quarterback in the first round. And we have made the trade. Trevor Lawrence is headed to the Carolina Panthers. And the compensation I felt was reasonable was us getting their second round pick this year and a third round pick next year. So they get a quarterback, they keep their first round pick. The information we have says they weren't going quarterback anyway in the first. Apparently they signed Justin Fields, so they had kind of already brought in a quarterback. I didn't realize that. But it gives Trevor Lawrence a chance. There weren't a lot of teams that could, make him a starter, but Carolina still, felt like a good landing spot for him. The cap hits actually get more friendly for them, I think because we're still on the hook for the signing bonus and they're not. So we have some dead money, and they have a quarterback they'll try to give a second chance to. I'm curious. Could this be the year we face the NFC South? No, we just played the Panthers this past year, so not likely we'll run into Lawrence anytime soon. Okay, what I think just happened is that we're taking on that entire cap penalty this year, which definitely this year versus next because of all the new money that's going to be dished out. But this screen says we're under the cap with $7 million in space, while this menu says that we are actually over by $13 million. I guess we'll see what the situation is after the draft, and we'll have to restructure some contracts if we're over the cap is all. But now we own 5 picks in the top 80, adding in number 37. I did spend our private workouts on 3 running backs, and boy am I glad I did. 2 round 1 players, basically, and a top 5 talent in Benji Cormier. Okay, I was expecting these guys to be good, not nearly this good. Cormier, well-rounded athlete, ran in the mid-4.4s. He's a 23-year-old running back, so I think to get the most out of him, you would want to play him immediately. But as far as running backs go, he's a pretty complete player. And we could still even have a solid round 1 option later in Joe Johnson. Just want to see how this all grades out, man. That pro day speed was nice, 4.37. Not the best overall pass catcher, but very good power back with speed. And I love that skill set. I also saw this at cornerback. So I like Broughton a lot, but Ezra Telfer actually is a top 5 talent. Probably would need to move up for him. but there are some really good athletes in this class. He's one of them, and there really isn't a hole in his game. The lowest grade is a C, but man, zone, press, all being B with that athleticism, he's a can't-miss player. Looking at the mock draft one more time, Jared Lauderdale should go number 1. He's been the number 1 rated player, best receiver in this class. Do the Patriots actually go quarterback? And what does that mean for Drake May if they do? Cornerbacks should go early and often, but we could likely stay put and still get a really good player. They're actually projecting Telfer to go lower than us. Will that actually come true? Jeff Samuels, I do like. He was the top defensive tackle in this class, but the only run stopper projected to go early. He's projected to go at 25 overall. So let's get the draft underway, everybody. There are some really great possibilities in this year's draft with all the picks we have and all the talent that we've scouted. Let's get it underway, everybody. The Browns pick number 1. And they're going to get the ball rolling with wide receiver Jared Lauderdale. 3 straight pass rushers go inside the top 4. And the Panthers make it 4 in a row. They obviously don't go quarterback now. They go Andrew Fordham. And the Patriots do take Jimmy Wise at the quarterback at 7. Drake May is an 84 overall, lacks any player tag, and has star development. He's ranked the 17th best quarterback in the league, but the Patriots decide they are going to start over. His stats have never been elite, and he apparently hasn't earned a franchise quarterback tag or anything, so they are going to try again, but likely still end up playing May, I imagine. I could consider moving up, but I don't think there's really a need to. I wouldn't be surprised if that cornerback goes earlier with the top 5 talent. Craig Raymond, quarterback to Dallas at 14, and the Eagles ahead of us go with another pass rusher. So many in this class. That means right here at 16 overall, without trading up, without tanking, we could still end up taking a top 5 projected player in this class. So, Telfer versus Broughton. We know Broughton has the B awareness, whereas Telfer's is B to C. They both have B, man, zone, press, C, tackling. Both are exceptional athletes. One of the greatest separators is that Broughton is 6'4". Telfer, meanwhile, a year older, shorter, but does get the edge athletically and top 5 talent. What's interesting, too, on the board, they are back-to-back, the 27 and 28th ranked players. This is a really tough call here, but I am going to go with the top 5 talent in Ezra Telfer. But I really think this is more of a coin flip scenario. But we're taking the guaranteed talent, the athleticism, and it's the second time in this series we are taking a cornerback in the first round. I almost took Von Broughton, and I'm sure he's going to have very similar ratings. Like, I don't think the top 5 versus round 1 is going to be as big. I'm predicting 1 point of overall. But we get a top 5 player. Track speed, rangy and effective in zone coverage. Kind of reminds me a little bit of his head coach, Nate Bell. And we do get hidden development to kick this draft off. But there's a whole lot more to go. Sergio Morgan goes at 17, and tackle is still something we have to look at. And we're getting the run. 3 straight tackles, including 1 to Indianapolis. The Raiders make it 4. Von Broughton goes to the Jets at 21. We'll check his ratings. Jeff Samuels goes at 25 to Houston. We'll be seeing him. We have moved up with our 37th overall pick in the second round, giving up a 4 this year and a 7, plus a 3rd rounder next year. I believe the pick we got in the Trevor Lawrence deal. And we're moving up 10 spots back into the first round. And I'm going to be selecting running back Benji Cormier. For one, he is a top 5 talent. He has a very complete skill set, and I find it tough to find that great blend of athleticism with some strength to really be a do-it-all player. He can catch the football, has great vision, can kick return even. And being a first-round pick means there's also a fifth-year option attached. And Cormier is going to be our second first-round pick of the day. Looking at the regression of Travis Etienne, the running back position became a much higher priority. And obviously something's going to have to happen now because we signed Trey Benson, we're over the salary cap, and we spent a first-rounder on a running back. We'll get there. Cormier is the number 3 player in the class, so we get 2 top 5s then in the first round. Normal development. However, if he plays, produces, I'm not as worried about normal development in this Madden because of what they're doing with milestones. And then the Rookie of the Year chance of development. We are going to have competition possibly with a quarterback. I'm just hoping that the quarterbacks end up going to the NFC this year. And George Payton goes the next pick. And he might have been one of our last chances to get an immediate starter at tackle. If we have to play Cleveland over there, I think that's a decent fallback option for a year. And I still like these other players, like I talked earlier about Cameron Towns, but I'm not taking him in the first round. So normal development or not, I'm really excited about getting Benji Cormier on this team, and I'm excited for year 4. Cameron Towns goes at 33, first pick of the second. Now we do pick at 47 and 48. We aren't done. The Steelers are the second team to take a running back. We'll have to see the ratings on Kendrick Judge. And we are about to be on the clock for back-to-back selections in the second. I didn't see anybody worth trading up for, but I did look at a couple more tackles, and I think this class was even deeper, but I didn't get talent grades on everybody in this range. So I looked at Jelani Swain, pass protector archetype with A awareness. He's a really good athlete, and he's a pass protector who isn't like abysmal in the running game. I don't like getting the poor strength players that can't play in the run there, but he might be one of the best pass protectors in this class, and we're sitting here almost at pick 50, and he's just right there. It's him and Antonio Fitzgerald as the last of this early wave of tackle options that could be starters. Fitzgerald, poor strength. The running game might be a weakness for him. I think the answer here is pretty simple. I'm going to take Jelani Swain from Oklahoma. Another 23-year-old tackle then. 19 in true value. Not bad. 3 players in the top 19. And hidden development, which might mean then that we look at trading away Ezra Cleveland. And what's my reward? Getting to pick again if I want to. And that's a question, do I want to? A lot of 60% players here. If we're just going by the board, there are cornerbacks who are going to pop up here. Not a major concern, but consider 3 cornerbacks become free agents next year. This would be the time to double up. I have Stanley Billups as an option. I also have Darius Williams further down the board. Billups, 22 years old, he's 6'4". So I passed on the really tall cornerback earlier. Here's another one in a very deep cornerback class. Great speed and size combination, can press so he can play on the outside. A-man and B-zone coverage. We're doubling up, man. I'm not going to find anybody better with 60%. That's the number 8 player. 3 top 10s, 4 top 19. Faster on tape, okay? Billups has hidden development. This is a really interesting spot for us to be as a team because we are drafting positions we don't necessarily need to. It is actually going to push players possibly off the team so that we can get younger with more upside and, of course, fit under the salary cap. That is now a new concern of ours. But wow, for us to have the extra second-round picks this year, I think this absolutely creates more excitement. I mean, I was thinking going into this, how do we follow up the Chuck Johnson story, man? This ain't going to be easy. How do we get him excited about next year? This draft class right here. That's how. Bryce Green just went linebacker to the Ravens. That is such a Ravens pick. Linebacker still something I could look to address. Zach Bond gives us the option of doing it next year as well. I've done a lot of these off seasons, right? This is a rare one, not just because of the draft quality so far, but we're going to have a lot more to do in the preseason stage as far as trading and getting this roster ready goes, because we are over the cap. And it's our turn to pick in round 3. Philadelphia just took a really solid player that I liked in Andrew Norton, one of the better linebacker fits available, so that's very unfortunate timing. But I didn't come here with only one option. Chuck Dalton at linebacker, I think, will be a very solid addition for us as well. So, 3 hidden dev players already. Everybody's had round 1 talent. I don't think we're going to get it this time. 28, though. That's a first-round player. Great speed to cover and track down tackles. Willing tackler that rarely misses. Solid spatial awareness when dropping into zone. Normal development. This is excellent, though, because Devon Lewis does have potential, but Dalton now younger. Hopefully not as injury prone. We don't know. C to F injury, he could have the same risk. But at least having 2 players there instead of 1. So now we might not pick for a little bit unless I work my way back up. And I've worked my way back up, giving the rest of our picks to the Cleveland Browns to pick first in the 4th round. And it's so I can select running back Joe Johnson, who we know is going to have round 1 talent. What a class! He's number 6! There ain't no way! 6? So he's literally the highest ranked player in the round 1 tier? Oh my God, this draft is incredible. Joe Johnson. This is unbelievable, man. I'm creating some tough decisions for this year. And I'm done drafting. That is quite the class. What do you think? Let me know in the comments section. It says I'm 19 over the cap, so we are going to have to move some things around, probably look at moving on from some players, especially to open up playing time for this draft class. Oh my, 77, 78, 75, 76, 75, 77. We're making the picks count this year. I think that one goes on the fridge. We kick it off with the cornerback Ezra Telfer, one of the most athletic players at the Combine. 95 speed, 93 acceleration. He is ready to play on day 1. I selected him over Vaughn Broughton, who is a 76. So I was right, only a 1-point gap in their overalls. Normal development. Wow, he was the All-Star Game MVP. I thought that enough was going to be hidden development. Usually those stories, I know in past Maddens, I think more in like Madden 16, 17, 18 era, like you could follow the stories and get a lot of answers that way. I am really surprised he's not a hidden dev player because he also was very athletic. I'm really surprised by that. The hidden development situation in this game is the trickiest for me to wrap my head around sometimes. But today we did get, quite lucky. We did not get lucky with Benji Cormier's development. So here's what he offers us on day 1 at running back then. He's a 78 with good speed, better acceleration, high vision, carrying 90 juke. And the power should come with time. Really good skill set. Let's compare him to our final pick then, 1 overall lower in Joe Johnson. I only found him because I sorted speed and saw he was like the highest power back. 93 speed, 86 break tackle. Are you kidding me? So he doesn't catch the football that well, but he is one of the best combinations of break tackle and speed I've come across. Even the juke is an 81. The spins is 75. He's got a lot of tools in the toolbox. And then we go and get tackled Jelani Swain. 23 years old. Is he ready to play on day one? Pass protection-wise, yes. Very good there. Run blocking, that is going to need help. Hidden development, though, is help. We double up on corner. Stanley Billups, welcome to Jacksonville. Very high man coverage. 73 catching. And then Chuck Dalton at 75 overall. Normal development. 91 speed, 85 tackle. And immediately I'm reminded of Devon Lewis's skill set. They are both run and chase, run defenders who have some potential in coverage. Both have normal development. And they'll be competing for a long-term spot. And this combined with a few of the difference makers in free agency, man, this is even more exciting than I thought it could become. What a draft. I do want to look through a handful of players, including Jared Lauderdale, who goes to the Browns at number 1 overall. And there's a reason why. Already a solid route runner, very dynamic, good hands, high spec catch, and all the run after catch skills as well. He's a complete player. The Patriots took a quarterback in the first round, hidden development, Jimmy Wise. But how could he overtake Drake May, whose overall is 10 points higher? No idea what they're going to do here, but I will keep an eye on it. I'm not going to drop Drake May to like a 75 overall, but I guess if it was close, I don't know. I don't think they should have been aggressively trying to move off of May without like trading him. Like, there needs to be another piece to this. Like, if the Patriots are going to want a quarterback and May doesn't have a tag, then don't keep him. Do something with him, like we just did with Trevor Lawrence. Cowboys took Craig Raymond, who's already a higher overall than Dak Prescott, but only normal development. Will he keep them from looking for a quarterback again next year? We'll see. And then I guess we could check on Cameron Towns, because I did like him a lot. He would have been a hidden dev tackle option at the same time, but more of a power-oriented player than like pass versus run blocking. So he would have been a solid pick, but very happy where we ended up. Steelers took a running back in Kendrick Judge. We ended up selecting 2 running backs that were rated higher. Judge, though, hidden development. Definitely a power back, only 89 speed. This feels like a very Steeler pick. Ravens took Bryce Green at linebacker. He was the college All-Star Game MVP. Broughton was not the MVP. He simply had a good game. But neither turned into hidden development. So I'm glad I didn't follow that too closely then. And then the Eagles had taken Andrew Norton, a 72 overall linebacker. Normal development on him with his coverage emphasis. And he was someone I was really interested in. Wow, so what an off season for us. Beginning with the 5th-year options getting picked up, a couple other players return, and then free agency went pretty well. It's often tough to find players that are, aligned with their interest plus what I'm looking for in free agency. There were positions like receiver who probably had like nobody for us. But that is how it all gets put together here for this season. But by no means are we finished yet, because we have to make it all make sense financially. We don't have a backup quarterback. There are still some things we have to do. I'm actually going to click on this media storyline because I want to know what they're going to do. I knocked out the draft, but I did not have a pick in rounds 5 through 7. So how are they going to grade this then? I ended up taking a really good running back in the 4th round. And said, I'm done. You said you'd win the draft by finding a sleeper in April? That's right. What position do you feel you found a sleeper at? Ask for clarification. I don't need to clarify nothing after that draft. Can you be more specific? Running back. Which player? What? Halfback 2? Get out of here. I just lost 10 morale because of that storyline, man. I should have never clicked on that. I try to see some of these things that I haven't seen at all. I'm like, looking at this stuff for the first time. Why does it feel like trick questions all the time? So that is annoying, obviously, to get a little bit of a morale decrease at the top of all this when it was such a great offseason. So now they have us $5 million over the cap. Not too bad. But like I said, no backup quarterback. There might be some other positions that need more depth. We have to make some moves. He's been great in this series, but I think now is the time for us to move on from Travis Etienne. And I'm going to accept a 5th round pick. Not going to ask a ton in return for players that are getting older with 1 year left on their deals. 5th round pick to me is fair. That opens up playing time now for veteran Trey Benson, Benji Cormier, Joe Johnson. This will be a situation we have to figure out how to handle. Kind of makes me want to look at maybe streaming another preseason. I don't know. What do you guys think? Now, that doesn't give us enough cap space back to sign anybody. And I did send Etienne somewhere where he's going to be the top-rated running back in play. I've now traded away Clark Phillips to the Cardinals for a 4th round pick. He's only 26 years old, coming off a really good season. Actually, this is probably a little too low. 1 year left on his deal, though. Solid starter. He goes to the Cardinals. A 4th round pick for a CB2, though, probably isn't terrible. And we have also traded Ezra Cleveland to the Cleveland Browns, getting another 4th round pick. If you're not familiar, no, I don't try to maximize every little bit out of these trades I can do. I just kind of think about what I think is reasonable, and I just do it that way. And that does get us a decent bit of cap space now, $7.5 million. It came down to Kenny Pickett and Daniel Jones to be our quarterback too, but I'm going to be signing Kenny Pickett right now. He doesn't have oblivious sense of pressure, and Daniel Jones does. I think there are some decent traits on Pickett, plus okay accuracy. He's our QB2. And a couple more moves that'll finish off the roster. We're going to sign outside linebacker Devin Bush. And we're going to bring back Foyesade Oluokun for depth, at least for the time being. And we have a reunion, as Nick Cross will be returning. We're also signing another edge rusher. We'll bring in veteran Kwity Paye, now 29 years old. And we're going to do a very small restructure with Devin Lloyd to give us a little extra flexibility. Just a $1.7 million move there. And then we'll sign a wide receiver here. It's a slot receiver archetype with good hands. It is Caleb Davis in his 2nd season. And for this, we're going to restructure Dominic Pooney. I don't think he's going anywhere for the next 2 years. So here's the team heading into Season 4. And the overalls would be a little bit better if the morale weren't knocked down 10 points. We'll see if we can fix that, though. We have Chuck Johnson ready for year 2. The offensive line, I think, remains a little bit of a question because I'm relying on development for the young players. And because we only have one player right now in the 80s for overall, it could make it tough on the young running backs to be productive, especially in sim. And we'll have to see what this backfield situation looks like throughout the season, because Trey Benson's our best right now. We want to get to the postseason this year, but we also want the best chance at long-term success. We need to develop the young talent. We have become used to Travis Etienne taking on most of the carries. I don't think that will be the same way with Benson. We'll likely have one of the running backs listed as halfback 1 and then one as third down back 1. Defensively, we've done a great job with the front 4, and we added on to it with Vita Vea. This is still what runs the defense, but I felt like we had to get another difference maker, and perhaps we got 2 with our cornerback situation. Telfer's going to play in the slot right away, which I would think gives him at least 60 to 70% of the defense's snaps. And things could change based on how the season unfolds. If we aren't strong to start the year, then we give even more playing time to the young players with greater upside. But there is a lot to look forward to with this team. I cannot wait to get into year 4 and see what this team looks like. a decent bit of change from last year to this. I don't know if it's a playoff team yet, because I did force us to get younger and we moved on from some of our veterans. But the foundation is undeniably stronger after that draft class. What do you think of this team going into year 4? And do I look tomorrow to fire up a little stream to maybe get a look at these running backs? Is that enough of a reason to stream again? Y'all can let me know in the comments. I'll take a look and I'll think about what I want to do tomorrow. Either way, we're getting to week 1 here in 2 days. So whether the stream happens or not, it's not going to impact the rollout of season 4. Thursday, we kick this season off, and I'm looking forward to it. This series has gotten me so rejuvenated in the franchise rebuild formula. It's been refreshing, and we got the right combination of young players and intrigue and storylines to really have me excited to continue on with this series. So that is it for today. Big off season for you. Let me know what you think down below. And again, if you wouldn't mind, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and let's have some more fun with the Jaguars franchise this year.